So, okay. All right, so let's continue. So now we are in week 21, human transport system. All right. First, let me tell you that in our human body, there are two main transport. One is the air transport, it's known as the human respiratory system. The other one is blood transport, known as the circulatory system. So these two systems, we're going to look into it today. Some big question that many students will be asking for the air transport. What are the components of air? Well, we know that air is around us. Is air means only one air, or there's many things made up of air? So let us find out later. And also the next question that people may ask, right? What are the function of the organs in the respiratory system? And how do humans exchange the gases with the surrounding? How did the air transport in or transport out? So how do we exchange gas? So all this we'll find out in the air transport section for today's lesson. So let's look at the first big question that many people have, the component of air. There is a layer of gas surround Earth called the atmosphere, all right? The Earth atmosphere is a mixture of gases called air. So by looking at this sentence, I believe everyone will know that this is, air is not one thing, whereas air is made of many gases. We have nitrogen, we have oxygen, we have argon, neon, hydrogen, helium, krypton, carbon dioxide, and many, many, many more. But for students like you guys, all you know is just oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and other gases. This is for easier for you guys to know, all right? The wind that we are feeling always is known as moving air. So students, air is a big mixture made up of 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 0.03% carbon dioxide, and the rest contains water vapors and other gas. So when we breathe in, the air contains this amount of different gases, all right? Let's carry on. So how do we remember the air? How do we know what gas is in the air? Well, all you know is to memorize this word called crowns. I believe you watch Netflix. There's this Netflix series called The Crown. So C-R-O-W-N-S. All right, C stands for carbon dioxide. All right. Then we have R stands for rare gases. All right. Then we have O stands for oxygen, followed by W stands for water vapor. All right. Next we have N for nitrogen and S for some other gases. So by memorizing the word crowns, you roughly know what is the mixture of air that contains all these gases. All right. All right. Next, oxygen. Let us dive down into some of the gases. What is it all about? All right. Oxygen, known as O2, is essential for all living things. Everyone, all living things need oxygen to carry out their life processes. Oxygen is needed for all living things to break down food and use it to obtain energy. This process of getting oxygen is known as respiration. All right. So we humans, we use oxygen, but for plants, at night they use oxygen. In the day, they make and produce oxygen through photosynthesis. All right, so therefore, plants are very important to the earth because they are the major component of living things that use oxygen, but they replenish, they produce oxygen during the day. All right. Next, we have carbon dioxide. Science formula is CO2. So carbon dioxide is given off when all living things carry out their life processes during respiration. Same also, carbon dioxide is used by plants to make their food during photosynthesis. This is how the components of air remain the same, because during the day, we take in oxygen, we give out carbon dioxide. The plant take in the carbon dioxide and give out the oxygen. So this is how the process goes about the gas exchanges. All right, next. So as mentioned just now, oxygen and carbon dioxide, these two gases are repeatedly interlinked with one another throughout the day and night. All right, so oxygen is needed for respiration, and respiration will definitely produce carbon dioxide, which is then needed for photosynthesis, which produce carbon dioxide. This circle, we call it a circle of gas exchange. It will tell you how both are being balanced, how both are being made or needed or used by different processes from different living things. All right. Next up, this is the picture diagram of the air transport system, or known as the respiratory system. We have the nose, the air goes in to the windpipe. Then we branch out to the air branches and go into the lung and go down to a respective air sac. So all these little ending points are called air sacs. So what is air sacs? So let's recap again. Nose allows the air to enter the body. All right. Windpipe, the one that is down from the nose all the way down to the lung, the tube, long tube is windpipe, transfer the air from the nose to the air tube. Then the air tube is the two branches that split. You know, the windpipe is one straight line down, right? And it's split into two different left and right, right? So these are called air tube. They split into two branches and enter the lungs. When it enters the lungs, it will go inside the lungs and reach the air sacs. In the air sac is like some kind of bubble ball, whereby inside there's so many blood vessels. The blood vessels basically in the air sac basically absorb the oxygen, at the same time pass the carbon dioxide to the air sac for it to be breathed out of the human body. So air exchange process happens in the air sacs. Oxygen enter the body through the air sacs. Carbon dioxide exit the body through the air sac. All right. So let me show you the video on the respiratory system. All right.
Your body contains more than 15 trillion cells.
Wow.
For each of those cells to do their job and keep you alive and healthy, they need to take in oxygen, along with the nutrients they need to function. However, it would be very inconvenient and next to impossible for every cell to handle its own oxygen needs. Thus, multicellular life has come up with an ingenious way to take in large amounts of oxygen at once. Introducing the respiratory system. Your respiratory system is in charge of supplying the body with oxygen. Nature is filled with many versions of respiratory systems: diffusion, gills, skin breathing, spiracles, and of course, lungs. These systems are all adapted to different environments and modes of living. In this video, we'll mainly look at the human respiratory system, but many fundamental functions of our respiratory system can be applied to other life forms as well. The respiratory system has many functions, as you might expect. First of all, the respiratory system doesn't just supply the body with fresh oxygen. Just as you might exchange something old for something new, your body takes in oxygen while also expelling a waste product produced by the cells called carbon dioxide. This is called gas exchange. Second, carbon dioxide exists in the blood as a base in the form of bicarbonate. Expelling CO2 maintains the pH of blood at an optimum 7.4. The respiratory system also makes it possible for us to speak and smell. These functions are carried out by the different parts of the respiratory system: the nose or nasal cavity, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and the lungs. So, how exactly does the respiratory system work? Everything begins with the brain. The brain, mainly the medulla oblongata, senses that the body needs more oxygen and sends signals to the respiratory system to inhale. In this effort, the muscles and bones associated with the respiratory system leap into action. Muscles pull and push the lungs, making them expand and contract. Breathing relies on an important principle: pressure differences. The difference between the pressures inside the lungs and that of the outer environment dictates whether air will flow into the lungs or out of them. This pressure difference is created by changing the volume of the lungs. Remember, pressure and volume are inversely related. So, the lesser the volume, the higher the pressure inside. To breathe in, we expand our lungs. This causes the pressure inside the lungs to be lower than the pressure of the atmosphere. Naturally, air will flow from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure, meaning that the air from outside will make its way into the lungs. The air will enter through the nose, the main opening of the respiratory system. The nose consists of the nostrils, and deeper inside, the nasal cavity. The epithelial cells in the nose produce mucus, which moistens the air, while blood vessels bring in heat to warm the air. The mucus also traps any dirt and pathogens that might try to invade the lungs. Also inside the nose are millions of olfactory receptors that help us smell the world around us. Now the air will make its way from the nose and move down the pharynx and larynx and into the trachea. The trachea is a long tube supported by C-shaped cartilage rings and smooth muscles. The inside of the trachea is filled with mucus, again to keep foreign particles out and ensure that the air stays nice and moist. Think of the trachea like a long passageway. As you move down the trachea, the passage splits into two medium-sized passages, which further split into many smaller passages that even further split into tiny passageways. These passages are called bronchi and bronchioles. When the trachea splits into the primary bronchi, these two passages enter the lungs. The primary bronchi then split into the smaller bronchioles. Through the divergent passageways of the bronchi, air travels into the lungs. This keeps happening until the passages end in a massive series of small rooms, the alveoli of the lungs, and the endpoint of bronchioles. The alveoli are where the exchange of gases takes place. They are air-filled sacs, sort of like balloons. They are in constant contact with the capillaries, which bring in oxygen-poor and carbon dioxide-rich blood to the lungs. The exchange of gases in the alveoli takes place on the principle of partial pressures. Partial pressure is the pressure a gas exerts when it is in a mixture. So, if there is a mixture of 3 gases in a jar, each gas will exert its own pressure in the jar. The total pressure in the jar will be the sum of the partial pressures of the 3 gases. In the alveoli, the partial pressure of oxygen is high, whereas in the blood vessels, the partial pressure of oxygen is low. As a result, oxygen will move from the alveoli into the blood vessels. Similarly, carbon dioxide's partial pressure is high in the blood vessels and low in the alveoli, so it will flow from the blood vessel into the alveoli. This exchange of gases happens all the time in the approximately 500 million alveoli found in the lungs. From here, the now oxygen-rich blood will make its way to the rest of the body to supply the cells with oxygen. To expel the carbon dioxide, the lungs now contract inwards. This reduces the volume inside the lungs, thereby increasing the pressure. This pressure is now greater than the pressure in the atmosphere, so carbon dioxide will move out from the lungs and into the air. And just like that, you've completed a full cycle of breathing. Our entire respiratory system is also important for our immune system. The mucus and hairs in the nose and trachea prevent foreign particles from entering the body. The lungs even have their own bodyguards, immune cells called macrophages, which protect the lungs in case any pathogens manage to infiltrate the organ. For the most part, we don't have to think about getting enough oxygen to breathe, unless we're doing yoga or have just finished exercising. Breathing is one of the most instinctual things that we do as living beings. So, the next time you catch yourself breathing in deeply and enjoying the smell of a warm sunny day outside, don't forget to thank your hardworking respiratory system for making all of that possible.
All right, so this is in-depth talk about your lungs, your respiratory system. All you need to do is just remember all this terminology. The terminology used in the video are quite advanced in the maybe in the secondary school level. So for primary school level, right, all you need to do is just remember all these parts: the nose, the windpipe, the air tube, lungs, and air sacs. All the other terminology, I believe that your teacher will be teaching you when you reach secondary school where you're studying biology. All right. So let me continue now to the second section of today's lesson, which is the blood transportation, the circulatory system. The human circulatory system is made up of heart, blood vessels, and blood. It is the main transport network in the human body. All right. So the blood transport oxygen, food, and water. And in our human body, for an average adult body, blood vessel, when you pull it in a straight line, the total distance of blood vessel is 96,560 kilometers. Can you imagine this long string are being clumped together in your entire human body? That's how long it is for the blood vessel in a normal average human body. So there are three types of blood vessels. We have the red color ones, known as the arteries, which is oxygen-rich blood. In this blood vessel, there's full of water and digested food for the body to use. All right. Then we have the veins, which is the blue color blood vessels, where after the body finish the oxygen and the digested food, it will exchange to give carbon dioxide and waste materials to the blood vessels. Hence, veins collect all those carbon dioxide and waste material back to the lungs. All right. Of course, how the arteries and the veins interchange is through this third category called capillaries. So capillary acts as a bus interchange or a train interchange. It's like in a bus interchange, you get on one bus and board another bus to another place. Same theory here. The oxygen will take a bus and travel through the arteries. And when it reaches the capillaries, it will go down and used by the body. The body will then ask the carbon dioxide to get out and board the train on the blue color veins back to the lungs. So only in capillaries there will be an exchange between the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. All right. So next, this is a diagram to show the red color. This is the arteries, and the blue color we show the veins, and the middle is called capillaries. This is how they exchange the gases and the food and get waste material here. All right. So let's look at some of the proper definition of the human transport body. Okay. So the some of the proper definition of human transport system. Circulatory system transport food, also known as nutrients, oxygens, to the cells of our body. It also transports carbon dioxide from the cells to the heart and then to the walls of lungs, where the carbon dioxide will be released to the air. All right, veins carry impure or carbon dioxide rich blood from cells of the body to the heart. Arteries carry pure or oxygen rich blood from the heart to different parts of the body. All right. Capillary, on the other hand, are the smallest of all blood vessels that forms the connection between the veins and the arteries. So students, bear in mind that veins and arteries do not allow any form of exchange of gas or exchange of food nutrients to waste material. Every exchange happens in the capillaries, in between two main highway. All right. Now let's look at one video to explain in depth on the circulatory system.
Did you have breakfast this morning? Did you ever wonder after you eat breakfast and your food is digested, how is that glucose getting transported around your body? Or as you take a breath in, how does that oxygen get transported around? Or when you exhale, how does that carbon dioxide get transferred out? Are these only questions I ponder during breakfast? Maybe. But your circulatory system is absolutely fascinating and highly involved in this. In this short intro video of the circulatory system, we will mention some basics about its functions and trace the pathway of how blood travels through your heart. But please know before we get started, there are gigantic textbooks on the circulatory system itself. So, obviously this video is just an intro. We're going to first talk about blood, the medium of how we transport glucose and gases. As we mentioned in our body systems intro video from many years ago, there are some misconceptions. Human blood is red, and always red, although the shade of red can vary based on how much oxygen is in the blood. Veins and arteries are often drawn in diagrams as blue or red to show whether they have lower or higher concentrations of oxygen. But that's just how it is used in most diagrams. It doesn't mean the blood or the veins or the arteries are actually that color. Veins that you see under your skin may look blue or green, but that involves the way they appear under the skin, and the reason for this would make a great physics topic, but I digress. Human blood has a lot of functions. It maintains a certain pH, temperature, osmotic pressure. All of this is very important for homeostasis. It transports things like hormones, nutrients, and gases. And it's made up of different components. One component includes plasma, the liquid portion. Water, proteins, salts, lipids, you'll find them in this liquid portion of blood known as plasma. Another component includes cellular components. This means red blood cells, which do the transporting of gases, white blood cells, which can fight infections, and platelets, which are actually cellular fragments, and they're involved with helping your blood clot. Very important when there is damage to the body. Red blood cells have an iron-containing protein called hemoglobin, and that is where the red coloring of blood comes from. So when we're talking about blood and we're just introing the circulatory system, we're going to focus on how this blood moves around in the human body. Human heart anatomy observes the heart divided into two distinct and separated partitions, a deoxygenated or low oxygen partition and an oxygenated partition. There are some human congenital heart conditions that can result in this oxygenated and deoxygenated blood mixing, however. More on that at the end. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Think A for away. Arteries are typically oxygen-rich, but there are exceptions. Veins generally carry blood to the heart. Veins typically are oxygen-poor, but there are exceptions. Capillaries are small blood vessels, and it is at the capillary level where oxygen is delivered to organs and tissues and where carbon dioxide will be picked up to travel back to the lungs. So looking at this heart, the right side, and that's the person's right, so for you it will look opposite, pumps deoxygenated blood, and the left side pumps oxygenated blood. We can also see four chambers, the right atrium and right ventricle, and the left atrium and the left ventricle. I like to remember that A comes before V in the alphabet, so that helps me remember the A's for atria are at the top of the heart, V for ventricles are at the bottom of the heart. Atria also have thinner walls than the thicker-walled ventricles. The heart also contains valves, which we'll see when we get to tracing the pathway of blood. The valves are one-way structures that help separate the chambers and also prevent backflow of blood. Ready to take the adventure of a lifetime? An adventure tracing the pathway of blood through the heart? We're going to start with blood that is in a human toe. This blood is deoxygenated. It needs to get to the heart so that it can be pumped to the lungs to pick up oxygen and then be spread throughout the body. It's going to get there through the vena cava, inferior vena cava to be specific, as the superior vena cava is above the heart. The blood enters the right atrium. The right atrium contracts, pushing the blood through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The right ventricle contracts, pumping the blood through the pulmonary valve to the pulmonary artery. By the way, when you see the word pulmonary, it likely involves lungs. The pulmonary artery takes blood to the lungs. The lungs are where red blood cells in the blood will take on oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Now this blood is oxygenated. It needs to return to the heart so that the heart can pump it throughout the body. The oxygenated blood travels through a pulmonary vein to the left atrium. The left atrium contracts and the blood travels through the mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle. The left ventricle contracts and pumps the blood through the aortic valve and out a major artery known as the aorta. The aorta is a major artery that carries oxygenated blood throughout the body. Now, I don't want to neglect the fact that the heart needs its own blood supply for delivery of oxygen and glucose. The heart can receive this blood supply through coronary arteries. Coronary arteries branch off the aorta and eventually deliver blood into capillaries. These capillaries deliver oxygen and glucose to the heart. Coronary veins will take the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium, where the blood will eventually travel the pathway to become oxygenated. In fact, to quiz yourself, can you pause the video and trace the pathway of blood again, starting with the right atrium? Okay, all together. Right atrium, tricuspid valve, right ventricle, pulmonary valve, pulmonary artery, lungs, back through the pulmonary vein, left atrium, mitral valve, left ventricle, aortic valve, aorta. Takes it to the body, and then it will eventually return through the vena cava back to the right atrium again. Whew, it almost makes you want to turn it into a song, but we won't. The significance of the pathways, how they interact, the coordination of contraction, and many more elements are part of every beat of your heart. A human heart beats over 100,000 times per day, so it's significant that every beat is coordinated and blood is directed where it should go. The complexity of the cardiac cycle, which is the coordinated sequence of the heart's contractions and relaxations, isn't something this short video can go into. Hopefully a separate video on that soon. One last thing. There are many conditions in which the heart doesn't function correctly. Anatomically, some heart conditions change the pathway flow of blood. One example that we had mentioned before is an atrial septal defect. The septum is the muscular wall that separates the right and left side of the heart. So a septal defect could mean an opening, and oxygen-rich blood could mix with oxygen-poor blood. Depending on the size, this can cause further problems, such as an abnormal heartbeat, stroke, or potentially heart failure in severe cases. Some medications can help the symptoms, or surgery can be an option. There continues to be more advancements for treating cardiovascular conditions. If you have interest in the amazing field of cardiology, take a look at the suggested further reading links in the video details. Well,
All right, don't be so stressed over all this terminology on left and right valves, all this thing. At primary school level, all you need to know is just arteries, veins, capillaries, and this definition, whereby is the circulatory system, the blood transports food, oxygens to the cell of body, and so on and so forth. So don't really talk about video. The video is just to give you an in-depth of what exactly the entire actual body system is all about in terms of blood transportation. But for your level, all you need to know is just these three things: arteries, veins, and capillaries. All right. With that, I will end my lesson for today. So now let us go for the quiz now, shall we? Alice? Yep. Oh, sorry.
Teacher, can I ask you a question?
Oh, sure. No issues. Yep.
Why sometimes the blood came out of our nose?
Why sometimes the blood came out of your nose, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
that's doctor's questions. All right, let me just think about it. Why sometimes the blood came out? I only know that the one example is right. Usually when the blood came out from nose, right, it's due to dry air. Why do I say so? Because when the air is dry and the air is hot, this will cause your membrane, your nose inside membrane to crack. When it crack, blood will leak out due to the heat. So this is one of the explanation on why you have nosebleed. Or shall I say, sometimes when you hit yourself in your nose got some angle or some injury, therefore your nose bleeds. So these are some of the reasons. There's many reasons how the nose bleed, but the most common reason is the nasal membrane, the tissue inside our nose, dry out and crack. That's why it bleed out. All right. Thank you very much. All right, I think Alice has started a trend now. I have more questions now. So yeah, can I let me take one question now? Hey Susie, nice to meet you again.
Teacher,
Yes.
did the blood go to the heart again and it pumps it again to the body?
The blood in the blue color. Okay, in our human body, right? There is no blue color in our human body. It's just a red color, which bright red and dark red. But for cartoon diagram, right, we draw dark red as blue. All right. So for the blue color known as veins, right, the blood will basically go back to the heart and go back to the lung to exchange gases, give the lung carbon dioxide and take oxygen and travel. As they take oxygen, right, it will become more and more bright red and it travel back to the heart and go to all the body again. After they go to all the body in the respective cells or respective part of the body, let's say stomach. In the stomach, the capillaries will same thing, pass them oxygen and take back carbon dioxide. That's when the blood will turn from bright red into dark red and back to the heart again. This cycle repeats all over again. So I hope this answers your question.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Susie. All right, next questions. Hi, Gwen. Is it Gwen or I can pronounce her name? Kwang, is it?
How can the blood carries oxygen with it?
How can the blood carry oxygen with it? Wow, that's a very okay. Let me just all blood contains red blood cells. These red blood cells, right, have this little pigment, or shall I say that this bus driver of the red blood cell is called hemoglobin. This hemoglobin will basically bind all the oxygens and transport around the body through this way. So all red blood cells have a bus driver called hemoglobin. All right, this hemoglobin is the one that binds all the oxygens. That's why oxygen can be transported by the blood to all part of the body. All right, I hope it answered the question. Thank you very much. All right, Susie, you have one question? Is it? Yes?
Teacher.
Yeah.
The blood go into paper then and the oxygen go to the paper then and it get to the blood, right, teacher?
You are saying that the veins, the blue, goes into the paper. Okay, the blue color, although as the veins.
Inside the air sac, oxygen move across the paper then walls to tiny blood vents.
You mean the air sac, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so you are saying that what happened in air sacs, right?
Yes.
All right, same thing here. What happened in air sac? In the air sac is the place where the exchange of gases from outside to inside happens. So that when you breathe in, the oxygen comes in to your lungs. In the air sac, same thing also. The blue color blood cells, although as the veins, will pass the carbon dioxide back to the lungs in the air sac. From the air sac, it will take in the new oxygen in, and then it continues its journey throughout our body again. So I hope this answers your questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Alice, so let's start the game now, shall we?
Start the game for me.
All right, sure.
Okay, I've logged in, so wait, let me find and today I'm not gonna talk much because I pretty much like you can already hear my voice.
Understand. Take care of our health, of our voice. Take care of our health.
Yeah.
All right, let's drink more water. I had a sore throat, but I eat black garlic to cure myself.
Oh,
Yeah,
I also have that.
yeah, black garlic. Introduced by my wife. No choice, have to eat. So when I was sick. All right, so today's is a game about human transport system, the two different systems, the air and the blood. Let us do what you want to do. Alice, you want to do what kind of game you want?
Maybe Detective Dinos.
All right, Mingan, sure.
Maybe.
All right, Alice, any other comments on other games that you want to play?
I think
Yeah,
it's
in the chat.
All right, students, you want to play what game? Please type in the chat, please, so that we can
In the
see.
chat, please.
Go cafe. I saw cafe. What else? Hack. All right. What else? Game mode, please. Hack. Dino. Wow, there's so many games. Okay. Let me just see whether can I do a poll here. I can't. Tower defense, dino. Okay, I see there's many dino here. All right, dino. All right. Right. There's so many. Okay.
But I think like we should try like some new game modes. So maybe we try Detective Dinos.
Okay, we'll do a dino, please. All right, let's do a dino. All right. I can't play booklet because I don't know my game ID. So it's okay. The timing set to 3 minutes.
5 minutes because.
All right, 5 minutes, sure. So you'll click on timing and then share the link to the group chat, to the chat. And then I will share to Zalo. So please share the link now.
Teacher, do you know what's special in this game?
I
Because
have
they
no
can
idea.
cheat.
Sorry?
Because the players can cheat in this game.
No wonder.
Like I've played this game once. But like you can cheat and find others cheating. Yes, yeah.
And steal things from them if you caught a cheater.
Yeah, because if you caught a cheater, it's still pretty fun.
All right.
So we're better not cheat.
And this and sometimes it was like popping some things in the screen, so like you couldn't see it. It's also a bit challenging.
I see. All right, we have 19 players now. That's very fast. Let's see whether is there any more joining. Oh, we're 18 now. 17 now. 19. Yes, Mira, any questions?
I got no questions. I don't know my email.
No, you don't need. Do you need email to join the game?
No, you don't really need.
You just click on the link. You see the chat, right? There's a link there. Yeah, me, I just send a link. From there, you just.
It asked me to say my email.
Is it?
Weird. Or maybe she clicked on the sign up because
Oh yeah, I did. I was just choosing my picture, and then I got no other buttons, so I just pressed the sign up.
Okay, when you choose the picture, right? Don't press anything. Just press join. Will do. All right.
just press the new link. That is the simplest way. Just press the link again.
All right.
Wait.
All right. We have Mira. Can you join already, Mira?
Just enter my name.
All right. Then I think there's one thing called the join button, right? I saw Alex sending. Hi, Alex. Yes. Any questions?
There's only sign up and login.
There's only sign and login.
Oh no.
Yes.
We are waiting for the quiz. I think we can start now. Today we have a lot of players.
We don't need to sign up.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to play the game now.
Oh,
There is
oh
no.
look. Now it says instructions. Look up
Oh,
at the whole screen.
Okay, that's great. That's great. That's great. You're in now. All right. Thank you.
Oh,
Enjoy the game.
yay.
Enjoy the game. All right.
Set it to 5 minutes.
I shall play some music while the game is going. Let's play some music when the game is playing.
Lights, camera, action. You looking at my PI. Get on the dang baba key.
All right, we have the final winners. Jax is the first, second is Win, third is Alice. Congratulations. All right, thank you, Mingan, for the screen share. All right, so which will end for this lesson. Next lesson, we are talk about reproductions in plants and animals in full details. In the last lesson, I think 20 weeks ago, last year, we actually talked about a bit on the reproductive system, on how the baby was formed in the mother's body. So next week, we are going to in-depth details on different part of the body that forms the reproductive system for human body, as well as the reproductive of male, female flowers next week. All right, with that, I shall end my lesson for today. See you all next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye, Mushroom. Bye, Mira. Bye, Mingan. Bye, Susie.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye. Now I
teacher.
bye. Bye bye. Now I saw the fake Andrew Lim.
Bye bye, teacher.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Take care. All the best. See you next week.